Hey gang, Captain Jim Ross here with Captain Matt Lee. We just got done doing the show this morning, Catch Memory Outdoors. Hopefully you enjoy this week's episode. We're going to talk a little bit about some turkey, a little bit about some trout fishing, and of course, we can't let those cobia get by. Appreciate you guys and gals tuning into this episode. Thanks so much. Welcome to another edition of Catch Memory Outdoors right here on WWBC 1510 AM. We appreciate you guys and gals tuning in every Saturday to listen to the radio show right here on the AM station. And of course, you can get on the FM stations as well. We've got 99.9, 94.7, 100.7 FM, low power frequencies throughout Brevard County here on the Space Coast. And, you know, you can always get us on the WWBC app. You can download that onto your phone and listen to us just about anywhere. Or you can listen to us on the streaming audio at catchamemory.outdoors.com. Click on that Listen Live tab on the website. And finally, Facebook. Good morning to those of you guys and gals out there on Facebook. Appreciate you tuning in this Saturday morning. It looks like it's going to be a wet one. I just dodged raindrops trying to get from the truck into the studio. So it's already started. It looks like a good day to maybe plan some indoor activities. Got Captain Matt Lee in the studio with me this morning. Good morning, buddy. How are you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic.
Good deal.
Little stuffy. You know, the pollinating. You know, we have various seasons here in Florida. We have almost summer, still summer, and Christmas.
Oh, yeah. Pretty much, man.
But in between there, we have the pollinating. And the pollinating
has been killing me,
God,
man.
it's wearing my nose
It's been killing me, man. I don't know if you can tell. I woke up, just my eyes are just hurting this morning.
I can't hardly
killing me.
Just they feel sticky and goopy in my nose. Anyway, I know you guys and gals out there.
Don't even wash your truck because the next day is going to be, within hours, it's going to be yellow again.
Well, fortunately, this rain that we've got is going to take some of that away from us. But, man,
I think so.
It's been, you know, Matt, it's been a good week. And we have to say that this segment of the show is brought to you by Blue Points Marina, and we want to thank those guys for being the sponsors of this segment of the show. It's been a good week. And you know how I know it's been a good week? That right there. All right? You've
been catching some brim?
Little raggedy edges on the thumb. You know, when you guys have had a good day of snook fishing, you know, it's been, your thumbs are a little tore up. My hands, the gills, and, you know, all kinds of hands are just torn up from this week. The snook bite turned back on, and I'm so thankful that it did because it added to the variety of species that we were able to catch. And even though all these fish are, you know, they're 33, 35, 37 inches, they're all too big to keep. Every once in a while, you'll get one that's in slot. But, you know, I look at my thumb and, you know, when you go to pick something up and you're like, oh, that kind of hurts, you know. I've been doing that for 3 days now. So,
there you go.
Yeah, the last 3 days, the snook have been we're just wearing us out on the water. But it's been a good bite, and I cannot complain one bit. You know, you throw that in conjunction with last weekend's cobia, last week and weekend's cobia before the front hit. You got jacks out there, you know. After last Saturday's show, Captain Blair Wiggins, you know, he was out filming with Scott Lum. You know, he called me up and he goes, "Hey, can you do anything after the show?" And I was like, "Man, I really can't. I'd love to go shoot, a show with you, but I just can't. I got too much going on. My wife's out of town. I'm taking care of dogs and ponies and, you know, all those kinds of things, and I just can't do it." I said, "But I tell you what." I had talked with Scott Lum the day before, and I knew he didn't have a charter for Saturday. I said, Scott's open. Scott's a great, you know, cobia and triple tail fisherman. Give Scott a call, see if he can run you, and then I'll come out afterwards. It's probably going to be noontime before I can get there.
Right.
But I'll come out afterwards, and I'll run as your second camera boat to get some wide-angle shots. He's like, deal, let's do it. So they got out there, and, you know, they found some rays and got some fish, and I went out there and it helped, you know, in a supporting role. But, you know, the nice thing about being the second camera boat is that you can kind of wander off a little bit. You know, when you're doing that kind of fishing, you can kind of wander off a little bit and split up and see if you can find anything. Well, I found these giant schools of beach donkeys. You know, those big old 20, 25-pound jack crevalle. And, you know, I called Blair over. They came over, got one on top water real quick, and then they kind of wandered off looking for the rays and the cobia again. And I just kind of stuck around in that area and had 2 more schools pop up. Well, you know me.
Gotta get in the
I
action a
couldn't
little
help
bit,
it. I had to
you know.
make that cast.
You know.
I had to make that cast.
That's funny because we went last Sunday. A buddy of mine, and he called me up Sunday morning. He said, "What are you doing?" And I had the day off, and like, I'm just drinking some coffee, bud. And he's like, "Be down at the dock at 10:00."
Yep.
So we went all the way down. We started at Ponce, and we went all the way down to the just about the launch pads there, and we saw one cobia. That was it on all the rays. We saw probably 30 rays.
You were so close.
And we saw one cobia.
So here's the thing, and I don't know what it was, but the fish, the rays that were at the False Cape and up towards Playa Linda, for some reason those rays did not seem to be holding a lot of cobia.
They were all
on them.
bare.
The ones that were just a couple miles to the south of there, starting from about the South Delta pad, South ULA Delta pad, down to the tip of the Cape and the shoal. The mantas, there was a seam there. There was a temperature break. There was a little bit of a slick. The mantas were coming around the tip of the southeast shoal, out towards between buoy 2 and buoy 4, coming around around the tip of it, and then kind of sliding up towards Decan.
Okay.
On the backside or the north side of the shoal drop off.
Mm-hmm.
And Kyle Weaver, as an example, I think Kyle he's in a little 15-foot skiff. He didn't have a tower. He had like 7 cobia by himself.
Wow.
That day.
That's crazy because, we were right there.
Yeah, you were so close. So it was like, oh, I got you $1. It's like that, like that commercial, right?
Oh, yeah.
You almost got it.
That was an adventure. That was an adventurous day, though, man.
Now, what size boat were you running in that you came from Ponce down that way? Because that's a good 25-mile run.
We were in a 25 Dorado.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's a buddy. He does offshore.
And it was so calm. It was so calm on ski.
Beautiful,
it was gorgeous.
man. But I tell you what, the numbers of dolphins out there. Good Lord, I'm surprised there's a fish out there.
Yeah.
There was hundreds of dolphins.
Schools and schools of dolphins.
Not that we saw rays. We saw rays just breaching the water, and it was cool. Like I love that is like sight fishing in the flats times 100. You know what I mean? Because those cobia are so big, they fight so well. Like that stuff. And the one cobia we did see, he did chase my paddle tail for about 5 seconds. And he turned back and went to the ray, and he didn't want anything to do with anything after that. He's like, "Yep, I've been to this game a lot.
Yeah, I've seen this. Yeah,
so
I've seen this before.
Then I heard that they were catching down there, but hopefully this weather will kind of stall them a little bit, so we can get some good weather up at Ponce.
I think
we can come back in and we can hammer. Get
I
a couple
think
good ones.
that front that came through. If you look at that 13-mile buoy that they just put out of Ponce. Okay, now last Saturday morning, that thing was 68 degrees. This morning, it's about 66. And the 4-mile buoy, and we'll get into this in just a little bit, the 4-mile buoy at Canaveral is 71 degrees.
That's gone up some.
And the 20-mile buoy is 71 degrees. Now, both of them were 73.
Yeah, so we were sitting
with that
like
cold,
68.
With that cold north wind blowing from the north for 2 or 3 straight days, kind of suppressed that movement, I think, pushed that temperature gradient back to the south just a little bit. I'm hoping that, and we got another reset coming today and tomorrow with this with this front. It's supposed to blow pretty hard out of the north again. I'm hoping that with this reset, in addition to, the midweek reset, that we see those fish start to pop right back up off the Cape again.
Sure hope so, man.
I got my fingers crossed,
I heard
so
that.
It's looking promising. Looking at what the weather buoys or water the wave buoys and temperature are showing us. It's looking like it's going to set up and be a pretty good scenario.
We'll see. They do what they want to do. That's for sure.
That's the variable. Okay, that's the one that you can't account for, because you're right. Manta rays show up in the darndest places at the darndest times, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, here I am. I've got a 68 to 69.5 degree temperature break, or a 70 to 71.2 temperature break. I've got a full degree, or even a 1.5 degree temperature break on a color change, on a slime line, a scum line, a weed line, some kind of line. There's some kind of feature where you can physically see the two currents coming together.
And they'll be
and
somewhere else.
and they're not anywhere near it.
They'll be on the beach, or they'll be 7 miles out. Who knows?
They'll be out on 8A Reef.
Who knows?
You're like, what are they doing out there?
What are you doing?
The conditions are here. What are they doing out there?
Exactly.
They, like I say, they do what they want to do. So but last week, lots of bait in those areas, and that's what was bringing those dolphin. We had pilchards, we had
baits everywhere.
croakers, we had greenies, we had hornbellies. There were just a lot of different kinds of baits that were balled up out there. And
There was big bait balls,
and that's that's something that we don't normally see a whole lot of, or at least we haven't.
It's early for that.
Yeah. You know what else is early?
Butterflies.
Butterflies and turtles. Turtles are in. I haven't seen any crawls up and down the beach yet. I've not seen a single crawl, but man, they are staging. They are in that 30 to 60 foot zone. They are staging.
Well, the butterflies are a main sign I look for, especially in fishing lagoon.
Yep.
And then people always ask, like, is the bite here yet, or do you get this, or do you get that? And I always tell them, I said, look, you gotta find the butterflies. Butterflies show the first signs of spring, summer, and when that happens and they start getting thicker and thicker and thicker, the bite will turn on.
It'll turn on. Yeah.
For your trout, your snook, your tarpon. The redfish bite's usually pretty good. Black drum will start to phase out. The water temperature goes up. Water gets dirty.
Yep.
Then you go back to square one, and you go back and you redo the model of how you've been fishing the past 4 months.
And it's almost a re-rig.
It is.
You've got every rod set up in a certain way, and then you're like, okay, scrap all that. We got to go to this next, the next type.
Well, you got to set up those 4 rods you just had set up for 4 months. Now you got to have one with this, one with that, one with this, and one with that. Because then you got to figure out what they're doing.
Yeah, what's the next pattern?
You got to have one top water, one paddle bait, one popping cork, one weighted hook.
Oh man,
Never fails.
yeah. And to me, a lot of guys are like, hey, is the fishing good in March? And
Let me rub my crystal ball.
yeah, or they ask you when's your favorite time or when's your least favorite time to fish? And honestly, I'm going to say March is my least favorite time to fish because it's the time when I'm the most uncertain. Like you were just saying about what are we going to do today? How are we going to produce fish today? What's it going to take to make it happen for my customers on the boat today? And because there's so many variables that you have to account for, because it's warm for 2 days and then it's cold and a north wind and then it switches, like the same day it's north, it'll switch to east. And then all of a sudden the fish will go, oh, it's time to eat. And you're already off the water and you're like, dadgummit, somebody stayed on the water for a full day and I only had a half day, and they crushed it in the afternoon and we couldn't buy a bite in the morning time. And so you're out there the next day going, oh, it's going to be on. And then like, no, they already ate yesterday. Now they're full. And so to me, March is a really, really difficult. It's difficult to pattern what the fish are going to be
very
doing.
difficult pattern.
And you just
because one day you're
going to
do one thing, and the next day you're going to do something else.
My boat looks like a porcupine on most days. It looks like 2 during March because I'm trying to double up on rods, so I don't have to re-rig everything.
I hear you. Well, that's what you got to carry. You got to carry
out of that thing everywhere.
Yeah, you got to carry your chunk mullet. You got to carry your shrimp, and then you
and
like your
plastic,
artificials.
and like you say, top waters and popping corks and spoons, and you're just like, where does it end? Where does it end?
What was funny is years ago I fished with Captain Brian Clancy.
Yes,
you know him. And one day we were fishing. It was the most weirdest thing is we were fishing the school of redfish, and I had beautiful live shrimp, and they would come over and they wouldn't eat a darn thing. And I watched him. He was probably 100 yards from me. He took up every time they came by, and I'm like, Bud, what are you doing? And he goes, you got any gulps? And I'm like, as a matter of fact, I do. And he goes, take the gulp and hook it, put it on there, like dead stick it. And I'm like, okay. I did, and they still wouldn't eat it. He goes, no, I forgot to tell you. Take the tail off, hook it at the other end. He goes, and just put it out there like a little worm. He goes, just dead stick it. And I'll be danged if sure enough they didn't come back by and eat it. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, how did you come up with that idea?
Yeah.
He goes,
tear my plastic or my lure in half, or tear part of it off.
Take the whole tail off,
tear
where
it
it
off.
looks like I don't even know.
A stick.
And they ate it.
Yeah, part of a mangrove bean or something,
You know, reinventing the wheel is what we call it.
Oh, my goodness. It is that time of the year. Hey, if you guys and gals want to get involved, we would love to hear from you. Give us a shout here on at the studio, 321-632-1000. That's 321-632-1000. We're going to be right back after this first break of the day with Captain Matt Lee and myself, Jim Ross, so don't go away. Segment of the show is brought to you by the great guys and gals up at Lamb Deck, and you've heard me brag about the Lamb Deck product. I'm telling you, it is worth it. Go check them out and get you some Lamb Deck on your boat. It is one of the best things that I've been able to put on my boat. And, there are, like anything, you kind of have to be careful with some products. My next door neighbor has a cat, and the cat has decided that it likes the Lamb Deck. And so he's gotten on the boat a couple times and putting a couple little picks in it, using it as a scratching post. So here's what we found. You can go to Amazon and find a cat deterrent. And it's a thing that makes a noise and flashes a light, and it's solar powered. Yeah, Colt. No. Producer Paul says a Colt.
I was going to say Red Ryder, baby guy, Daisy.
But we put this thing in the side yard, and the cat won't go anywhere near the boat now. And it's self-contained. It's just a little, solar powered setup that it recharges itself. And so it was a learning experience for me. Okay. Because I didn't realize that, if I put Lamb Deck all over the boat, that the cat would enjoy it just as much as I did. But now that I found the the fix for that scenario, I cannot tell you how nice it is to walk around on that stuff all day long compared to a regular deck of a boat. At the end of the day, my knees don't hurt, my back doesn't hurt. It's just one of those things where it's got so much cushioning there. And it quiets everything down when you do on the boat. It just keeps you from scaring fish. So bottom line is, like everything, there's always something that you have to take into account. But I'm telling you, if you get the Lamb Deck, you are not going to be sorry. And if you do have a cat issue in your neighborhood, and you don't have a Colt as our producer, get yourself a little cat deterrent. It was about $60, and it's taking care of all the problems. So good stuff, really, really good stuff. The guys up there, they laser cut everything, laser measure, laser cut everything. CNC your logo into the deck if you want, whatever you want. It is just amazing stuff.
Not to mention the slip factor.
Oh, that's the other thing. I mean, it's fantastic. Like my cooler, I got my 80-quart Engel sitting underneath my leaning post. It doesn't even have tie-down straps on it.
I was talking about for the Captain. Yeah, you got a fish flopping around, and you got all the slime everywhere.
That stuff won't go anywhere.
I almost did a split one day before I got this stuff.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah, on a regular deck, you're right. If you get fish slime on the deck, now you got a slick spot. You got to be careful of. With the EVA non-skid decking like Lamb Deck, you don't have to worry about it. So, give those guys and gals a call up at Lamb Deck. They do a fantastic job of it really makes your boat look sharp too. But 321-505-4888. That's 321-505-4888. Or you can check them out at lambdeck.com. It's LAMDECK, lambdeck.com. Matt, we were talking about spring and everything that goes along with spring. We have spring showers again this morning. And, that was yesterday's theme, was spring showers. And we're right in the middle of spring break. So unfortunately, spring showers and spring break means we're missing spring money as charter captains. We're not able to get our customers out like we would like to. But, on the days that we can get out, it's like I said, my thumbs tore up. It has been fun this week. We've gotten a lot of different kinds of fish. The variety that has started to show up. Black drum, still here. Sheep's head are still here. They're starting to wane a little bit, though. Those giant bluefish that have been at Port Canaveral, Sebastian, and Ponce, they're still around, too. Those big 10 to 15-pound bluefish. But now the Spanish mackerel are showing up. The mangrove snapper are showing up. Triple tail, cobia, big jacks, flounder, little jacks, pompano,
Pompano bite's been crazy up there.
and I even caught a permit this week. So I mean, there's 11 species that we've caught this week.
Not to mention your redfish are still around. Your
Oh,
trout should be
redfish,
starting
that's
to show
12.
up.
Yeah, I forgot about the redfish. We caught some redfish.
Trout start showing up
Speckled
better.
trout. So there's 13. Yeah, I mean, it's just a fun time of the year to fish.
Oh yeah.
I really enjoy when the bite is on. I get really frustrated when I can't figure the bite out or the bite's not on. And, that's just being on the water. This time of the year, it's just a matter of putting in time. You just have to be there to be on it when it happens.
Exactly. And there's those days you can sit on them and sit on them and sit on them, and you just can't make them eat. It's just part of it. But the bite's been pretty good.
How is the water looking in the lagoon?
Water's been low.
Okay.
It's been really low, but the water has been decently clean. We still got a lot of that chloropa all over the place, which is not good. It's not anything you want to fish in for sure. But the water's been decently clean for the most part. But it's like I said, it's been extremely low.
Now, I noticed that the weeds in your yard, the weeds are starting to grow. In the pasture, the horse pasture, the weeds are starting to grow. Spring is definitely sprunging, if you will. How is the grass looking in the lagoon? Have you seen the sprigs?
I mean, there's sprigs and stuff. I mean, but it's not anything like it was. Like, last year. I mean, I don't know what happened last year. It came back in full force and then just disappeared again. I have no idea. But there's places where you are seeing some grass, but it's not thick yet. It's not. It's just there. Let's just put it that way. But it's hopefully with the water staying decently clean, hopefully it'll go ahead and sprout.
Well, I remember, as an example, Slippery Flat, loaded with grass last year, loaded
everything, everywhere.
And it was just like, wow, this is
Tiger Shoals was too.
Tiger was loaded with grass.
We're going, holy crap! What do we do with this? Because we haven't had grass. How do we fish this again? And then I'm going to myself, like, how I get grass on the hook or whatever. I'm like, I'm never going to complain about this again. Like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to complain about the grass on my hook. And
you have to go for no more open jig heads. You had to go back to actually a swim jig, weighted swim jig again.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then all of a sudden, just went and gone. Like no rhyme or reason for it. It just gone.
Well, this El Nino scenario that we have has brought us a lot more rain this winter than what we typically get during winter time.
And wind.
It's
been brutal.
Yeah. For a while there, I almost thought we were living in Seattle.
Jeez.
Every day was overcast and rainy for a week, and you're just like, where's the sun? Where did it go?
It's not the rain doesn't bother me at all. It's just the stinking wind. I mean, even in the lagoon, you're talking whitecapping in these areas, and then because we're still fishing a few schools here and there, and then the bad part is you can't see the fish.
Yeah.
You got to dang near run over top of them before you even see them
because they're so light this time of the year. They're so muted in color. They want to try and blend in with that bottom, and so they're not nice coppery fish with an orange back anymore. They are when they're on the grass.
Well, I've been chasing a lot of the black drum, and they've been chewing on if you can get a bait in front of them, like pretty much they'll chew. But the problem is even the school of 100, 150 black drum, whatever, however many they are, and you're in 2 foot of water, and you can't see them until you're from me to you from them on a windy day. It's like, oh, okay, well, and then they're like Houdinis because they'll go to the right and then they'll end up on your left for some reason. Or back behind you, and it's just like you can't see them. You can't pattern the way that bubble.
They swirl. Black drum. When black drum are in a school, they remind me of a sprayed roach. They couldn't swim a straight line if they had to. It's just one of those things where they're twirling all the time.
Always
twirling in circles.
What I'm saying is, you do pop them up, and you watch them go to the right or go to the left, and then you're like, okay, well, we'll move over here. Or we'll move over there, and then all of a sudden you'll fish on them a little bit, and then you're going, oh, they're over here, or they're back there. It's like, how in the world did they get there from there? And they're Houdinis, man. I'm telling you.
They have a knack of getting around you. Don't
They sure do.
They sure do. So I was talking with a couple of guys that were fishing out of kayaks over in the Banana River, and they had found some black drum. And we typically just stop at the store, get some shrimp, throw the shrimp at them. These guys are throwing these globs, and I'm like, oh, I know what that is. As they're kayaking down the flat, okay, water's shallow,
right?
They're picking up the crown conchs, the little crown conchs.
Okay.
They're picking them up, and then they're using those.
I got you.
For bait. And one crown conch will stay on the hook for about 4 fish.
Wow.
I mean, they're tough. They're pretty tough little things. And man, the black drum eat them like crazy. So here you go. You're not normally thinking, well, I'm just going to go pick a snail up,
right,
a little crown conch off the bottom and use it for bait. But that is a dynamite bait.
Oh,
highly, highly recommend that if people are finding black drum and they're having a little bit of an issue getting them to bite,
I'll tell you what else
go
works.
pick some of those crown conchs up and smash the shells and pull the snail out.
I'll tell you something that works even better. Well, probably work just the same, if not whatever. But I ran across the school during the summertime, and all I had was pigfish or croakers or whatever I had that day. And I ran across them, and I'm like, holy cow. And I was like, well, what do I throw at them? So I go in the box, and, of course, the only thing I had was a bag of fish bites. And I took a pink, the shrimp one, and I got the biggest piece I could and hooked it down there. Being pink, like I put it on a jig head and I threw it out there, and man, they ate the tar out of it.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
So I buy the chunks.
Yeah.
Those triangular chunks, and they'll eat those really well. You can just, like you say, just dead stick them.
Yeah.
Kind of like Brian Clancy was doing with those gulp. You can dead stick those fish bites and definitely get them. But you're right. You can't put a little piece on there. You have to put a good sized piece.
Yeah, they got to be able to see it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, guys and gals, we're up against our next break. Give us a shout here at 321-632-1000. We'd love to hear from you right here on Catch and Memory Outdoors. We're going to be right back, so don't go away. Hey, gang, this segment of the show is brought to you by Sun State Pest Management. We appreciate those guys and gals over at Sun State. Now, I've told you this before, and if you just moved here, you recently moved to Florida, guess what? We have bugs. We have lots of bugs.
We do?
Yeah.
Oh,
we have lots of bugs that want to live inside your house because it's climate controlled versus outside where it's either rainy and wet, and they don't like that, or it's hot, and they don't like that. So you need to call Sun State Pest Management and get them over to the house because if you haven't had a bug problem, you're going to have a bug problem. It's just going to happen. Trust me on this. And so what Sun State does is they figure out what kind of pest problem you have. They use the proper type of product to take care of that particular pest issue, and they do it in the proper quantities. So you don't have to worry about, did I put out enough or did I put out too much? And, do I have chemicals laying around my house that my kids, my dogs, my cats, whatever, might get into and become a potential problem for you? Just call Sun State Pest Management. It's real easy.
Professionals.
Yeah, leave it to the guys that know what they're doing. 800-781-7378. That's 1-800-781-7378. Have them come out and do an assessment and take care of you. My guy Chad, it's kind of funny because my technician Chad stops by, and we end up talking for about 15 minutes about fishing. And he'll be fishing here, and I'll be fishing there. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I caught this and this and this, and they were biting this." And I'm saying, "Oh yeah, well we were catching this and this, and they were biting this." And he's like, so it's for me, the guy that I have, because he's an outdoorsman and loves to fish. I get some intel from him. I reciprocate
Bonuses.
Yeah, but hey, it's not a bad deal. So
Bonus.
So that works for me. Hey, we want to say good morning to everybody out there. Let's see who's on with us this morning. Josh Brewer is on. Good morning. Sean Scribner Sr. Good morning, sir. Saw that he did a pretty good job on the near shore bite. Had some triple tail and some other fish in the boat the other day, so congratulations on that. Butch McCoy, perfect day for a fishing show. I agree completely. Jesse Dance is on there as well. Good morning to you. James Thier just had a birthday here recently, so happy belated. Captain Durwood Roberts, Adventurous Custom Rods, Saul Horning from working down there at Strike Zone. If you guys need to see somebody, pull in and ask for Saul and let him,
Is he still making rods?
I don't know if he makes rods. Oh, Durwood is, yeah.
Durwood is?
Durwood is. Saul is down at Strike Zone, though. If you need anything, stop in. He'll get you hooked up. Guy knows his stuff. Charlie Silver, good morning, sir. Kyle Weaver is at the hunting lodge this morning. Did you ever get those turkeys cleaned yesterday? Friday, I guess I never heard back from him. I said, are you coming out to chase these Cobia? And he says, if I get these turkeys cleaned, I will. Darren Bolton's on with us this morning. Appreciate you tuning in. Bert Priest, Kurt Jacobs, a couple of other guys out there. Appreciate you guys all tuning in. And you know what? If everybody out there that's watching, if you'll do us a favor and share the show to your personal page, and I'd really appreciate that. I'm just trying to see what kind of reach we can get by splintering it out there. And
Still trying to figure this out over here.
on yours, you should be able to hit that arrow down at the bottom left there, and then your page should come up. You can put it to your page, or you can put it to your story. Just trying to see what kind of numbers we can get off of that. We got 27 showing right now, but of course, there's always people that don't show. Like my wife never shows up on there, and Captain Blair Wiggins and his wife Carrie don't ever show up on there. So there's a lot of people out there that you don't realize are out there, but it's one of those things where I guess their numbers aren't always correct. Anyway. Hey, let's do the catch conditions real quick because they're not going to be very favorable, so let's just go ahead and talk about them. West today at 10 to 15. It's going to be a little rainy and drizzly out there. Switching to northwest at 15 to 20 by later this afternoon, and then going 20 to 25 by tonight. Seas inside of 20 miles are supposed to be around 4 to 6 feet with a dominant period of 8 seconds. And right now the Ponce buoy is 66 degrees, 6 feet at 8 seconds when I checked it a little bit ago. The 4-mile buoy out of Port Canaveral, 71 degrees, 6 feet at 8 seconds. The 20-mile buoy out of Canaveral was 71 degrees, 9 feet at 7 seconds. And the 6-mile buoy out of Fort Pierce was 73 degrees and 6 feet at 5 seconds. So, if you had to pick, do you want 9 feet at 7 seconds, or do you want 6 feet at 5 seconds? Which one works for you better?
Neither.
Exactly. I want to be sitting there with Butch on his porch overlooking the ocean from his condo on a day like today. That's the best place to be.
I don't do it for a living, of course, you know that, but I've been out there when it's super bad and super rough, and that is not fun. No. I don't care who you are. It just makes for a horrible day.
It really does. It really does. Western edge of the Gulf Stream is currently 49 nautical miles due east of Ponce, 34 due east of the port, and 31 due east of Sebastian. And the current surf temperatures, 67 degrees at Ponce. Cocoa Beach is 70, and Sebastian is 72. So as you can see, between the buoy reports being, anywhere from 66 at the 13-mile buoy just north of Ponce Inlet to 73 at the 6-mile buoy out of Fort Pierce, we are in the zone. We're in the Cobia zone right now. The Cobia zone, the triple tail zone, the snooker starting to bite. We still got this giant bluefish hanging around. Everything is really good right now in the central east part of the state. We just need the wind to die down so that we're not dealing with 9 feet at 7 seconds. And we can get out there and go chase some of these fish. Tides look like this if you're fishing the port. 7:35 a.m. is the high. The low is at 1:48 p.m. and the high again this evening is at 7:54. And down at Sebastian, the high is 7:42 a.m. The low is at 1:56 p.m. and the high again this evening is at 8 p.m. sharp. So lunar tables, which are the best times to hunt and fish, most of the time. Once again, crystal ball, crystal ball in it here. So the solar lunar tables typically tell you when there's heightened activity, although sometimes they just don't seem to be taking any effect on the animals whatsoever. But brought to you by All About Archery. And I appreciate Tino from All About Archery being in last week. We had a big time. He was talking about all the advances in bow technology and just some really, really cool stuff. Just when you think you can't improve on something, boom, the engineers come out and improve on it. And it's just, bows at this point are, you have a lethal weapon in a bow these days.
Mm-hmm.
Even a mid-range bow is a killer, but these top-end bows, holy cow!
Fast, quiet.
I mean, he's shooting these archery challenges, and I don't remember exactly what they are, but he's going all over the United States, up to the mountains and Smoky Mountains and different places that they have these, and they're shooting 60, 70, 80 yards.
Crazy.
And he's been practicing, like he starts at 50 and shoots out to like 80 and just
that's crazy.
Lethal, And so, I've never experienced that before. I'm sure some of our listeners have at shooting longer distances. 50 yards is about the longest I've ever tried to really, legitimately take a shot at a target. Never at an animal. I've never shot an animal. But, like Captain Kyle Weaver, who's watching this morning, Kyle used to, he doesn't do it as much as he used to, but used to do a lot of elk guiding out west. And Kyle would say, yeah, 70 yards. That's an average shot. That's an everyday kind of a
You're also
thing.
looking at a 3 foot across animal.
Yeah, you're looking at an animal with a heart that's the big as a basketball almost.
Exactly. I mean, if you can hit a pipe plate, I'm sure you can hit a heart.
Yeah. So, the target's bigger. It's not a typical Florida white-tailed doe.
Right.
Rolling in there at a heavy 90 pounds. You got
a 6-inch window.
Yeah, and you got a 6-inch window between the palmetto bushes.
Not to mention as they move.
But Tino was saying that the bows these days have just gotten incredible. And here's the other thing: if you guys and gals haven't gotten your bow tuned up recently, now's the time. Get it in there, get it tuned up while you're in the off season. Make sure your timing's right. Make sure your draw length is right, because your strings stretch, your cams get out of time, your peep sight moves. There's all sorts of things that can potentially happen. Make sure that you get in and get it tuned up. But long story short, the major for this morning, 11:31 a.m. to 1:31 p.m. So lunchtime's supposed to be the feed, according to the Soul Lunars. And then again, the minor this evening is at 5:54 p.m. to 6:54 p.m. So looking forward to getting out here. I don't know if I'm going to get out this afternoon, but I'd like to get out this afternoon if the weather will allow, and just kind of mess around in the woods a little bit.
Try to roost a turkey.
Maybe see if a turkey will roost, or we've got one hog on the property that just wants to just rip everything up, and
Sounds about normal.
And he needs to die. He's ripe. He's ready for plucking. It's time to harvest that animal. You know what I mean?
I do. We got one up there in Georgia too, and he's a good one. I mean, we don't have any hogs, but we got that one, and he is a good one. He is tearing it up there. So we got to get up there and get him.
Yeah, I come in back, I bring my tractor out and get my box blade and smooth it all out, and try and get some grass. I come back a week later, and he's been all up in it again. And I'm like, you know what? I got something for you.
I heard that.
It says 308 on the side of it.
It only runs about 2,000 feet per second.
Yeah, I'm fixing to put the smack down on him. Anyway, we're going to take our next break, gang. If you'd like to get involved with the show, we would love to hear from you. Captain Matt Lee is in the studio with me. I'm Jim Ross, and you can get us at 321-632-1000. That's 632-1000. We're going to be right back after these messages. Remember, if you missed the show, you want to go back and listen to one of the shows over again, there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can go and check out our Facebook feed if you have Facebook. That's Catch a Memory Outdoors. You can see it there. You can go to catchamemory.outdoors.com and click on the archive tab, and we've got years worth of shows on the archive tab that you can listen to. Or now you can go to Captain Jim Ross on YouTube, and you go to the Captain Jim Ross channel and click on the Catch a Memory Outdoors that you want to listen to. And what's happening with that is we're adding the new shows every Monday or Tuesday of the week. So you have to kind of wait a couple of days before it's actually up on the YouTube channel. But we're also putting up all of the back shows from 3, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. We're putting those shows up as well. So you can go back and you can listen to those. And here's one of the things that I found interesting is I was listening to a show from about 4 years ago the other day. I was sitting there working on my computer, and I'm like, I just want to see what was going on this time 4 years ago. And it was interesting to me because we had a really good big trout bite going on that year. And I was thinking to myself, like you were just talking about, the butterflies are starting to show up. When the butterflies show up, the big, gator trout start to show up. Mm-hmm. And for me, in that Banana River south to Sebastian Inlet area, that's where I catch the majority of my big trout in mid-March to the early April time frame. And then it seems like they start to migrate on up and into the northern Indian River Mosquito Lagoon complex late April, early May. And so it's interesting. They weren't really on my radar because we've been kind of Cobia. When the Cobia show up, you lose your mind.
Oh, yeah.
You do. You're like, you get.
But you have to. They're only there for
that window's so short.
Window.
But the big trout window, in the springtime is kind of the same way. I mean, yeah, we'll get a big one in the summertime here and there, but I'm talking about 26, 28, potentially 30-inch trout. And those early morning topwater bites, to me, whether it's a live mullet or whether it's, a skitter walk or, one of those topwater type plugs, or on the calm mornings. And this is what we were talking about in that show, was in the calm mornings, a 5-inch jerkbait. And I throw the Assassin 5-inch jerkbaits. I love the native shiner colored one and the gold pepper shiner colored one. Now, the native shiner is a smoke back with a green fleck in it and a gold flecked belly. And it is one of my favorite big trout lures. And I rig that weedless for those calm mornings when you don't want to make a lot of noise, because those big trout, sometimes they'll actually push away from a topwater plug on a calm morning, where a jerkbait just kind of slipping along and sliding and breaking the surface every once in a while. That more subtle action, they really like that. And then the gold pepper shiner, if you're in an area where there's a little bit more tannin, that gold pepper shiner, because it's a smoke back, kind of a little bit darker with gold fleck in it. And that particular one seems to work really, really well if you got a little bit more tannin. And this year we've got quite a bit of, tannin that's kind of working its way into a couple of areas because we've had more rain than normal.
Right.
And so we're getting runoff from that rain. So anyway, just some things to kind of keep in mind, and some things that, in your spare time, you're not doing anything, or you're working and you just want to listen to something in the background. You can always go and click on those archived, radio reports, and obviously get an idea of, hey, the next time I'm on the water, I need to go look for these conditions or give this particular technique a try. So that's what I really like about the updating and putting those older programs, back out there, or being able to listen to them. It's just, there's a lot of information, a lot of good captains over the years that I've had on here. And man, the amount of information that is available from this collection of radio shows over the years is pretty impressive.
Well, the other thing that's good too is if you know, as far as like us captains goes, the fish pattern, like most of the time, like you're saying, you can go back to March this time of, let's say, 2018, 2019, and pretty much if you listen to what you have to say and do and all that stuff, it's pretty much on the same lines, more or less. Like people ask all the time, like, how do you know what the fish are doing, or what are you going to do this time of year, or what can we expect in 6 months? Well, in 6 months, it was like, okay, well, that time of year we're going to do this, we're probably going to do this, more or less, and you're in the ball game, you know what I mean? Kind of like pattern deer, like when you feed deer, or you do food plots and cameras and stuff like that, or pattern anything, animals tend to stay on that pattern unless something drastically changes. And that's a good thing you can do, because if you don't remember, you can be like, "Oh, Jim, what did we do back in March of 2020? Oh, well, we threw shrimp and we threw, this or whatever." And so you can kind of keep in the zone more or less fishing, and then expand from there. Like okay, we did this, so now we can go expand over here, over there, and it makes you a better fisherman, or outdoorsman in general.
Most definitely.
So,
now you were talking. We were kind of talking a little bit during one of the breaks about spring turkey.
Mm-hmm.
Spring turkey season is here. Zone C is open. Guys are getting out in the woods. One of the things that you kind of have to remember and remind yourself out in the woods, especially on public land, is there's normally a lot of guys out there.
I heard somebody got shot the other day.
Really?
Yeah, who was telling me? We were just talking about, like, said he had a decoy out, was calling, and somebody from the opposite side shot him. Ended up shooting the guy.
Shot his decoy.
Shot him. Shot his decoy, but he was behind the decoy.
He was behind the decoy.
And actually shot him, so I'm like, man, I don't know.
Man,
if I was on public land, I don't know if I'd use a decoy.
Even if you have an Avian X, okay, which is the most realistic decoy out there.
Yeah, for sure.
You got to be able to tell the difference between a live animal and a piece of plastic on a stick. I mean, come on, man.
Well, I mean, the best thing you could do is, if you are going to use it on public land, then take one of them legs and tie an orange ribbon to it or something.
Something. Yeah, put a bow tie, an orange bow tie around his neck.
Something. I don't know. I
Hunter safety orange, right? Tie it on your decoy.
Something.
I was talking with a friend of mine, and he's been at Bull Creek, and he says, "Oh my goodness," he says, "Their woodsmanship, I think it is we look at on the water, we look at boatsmanship, and are people doing it right, or are they doing it wrong?" And that's all subjective, but I mean, if a guy's on a poling platform and he's working his way down a bank, you don't buzz by him on your main motor and then shut down in front of him on the flat and start poling in the same direction he was poling.
Right.
I mean, that's just wrong. It's like butting in line. Okay.
Yeah.
Imagine being in line at Disney in that 2-hour line to get on Space Mountain, and right before you're about to get on, you're almost to the fish, right? You're right before you're about to get on this ride. Somebody runs up there and cuts line and butts in front of you.
I had that happen to me the other day.
It's just wrong.
Yeah.
And so, you don't do that, okay? And if somebody does that to you, then you just politely pole up to them and say, hey, bud, just to let you know, you should have fallen in behind me.
Right.
Instead of cut in front of me on this flat.
I agree.
That's the way to do it. Well, woodsmanship is the same way. If you're walking into a place and you see fresh boot tracks in front of you, keep looking at those boot tracks, because somebody is in front of you and they're already heading to a particular piece of woods. Now, if you're following them for any length of time and you're getting off of a main trail and you're going off to the side, guess what? You're trying to hunt the same piece of woods they are. Keep going. Find another piece of woods. I mean, there's some good callers out there, okay? There's some really good callers out there. But if you listen to turkeys long enough, you're going to be able to tell the difference between a guy with a mouthpiece, a guy with a slate, a guy with a box call.
Most of the time.
And the real deal.
Most of the time.
Okay? So if you're calling to a hen, and that hen is calling back to you, that's a good thing, until it's not a good thing. And you have to make a decision, am I actually talking to another hunter?
Right.
Because the idea is not really to talk to the hen. The idea is to talk to the gobbler. You want to get the gobbler involved in the conversation.
Right.
And if you talk to a hen for 5 minutes and there's no gobbler involved in the conversation, and she's not physically moving towards or away from you, she's staying in the same location, that's another hunter.
That's a good chance.
That's another hunter. So try to recognize these things. But like you say, shooting somebody's decoy, I mean, that's just out of control. How does that person even own a gun? You know?
Yeah. Well, there's a show on YouTube I like to watch. I don't know if you watch it or not. It's called The Hunting Public.
Okay.
You ever seen it?
I've never seen it.
They do a deer tour and they do a turkey tour. It's just a little group of guys. They go and they hunt 90% public land all over. And I tell you, man, those guys are there. They'll teach you a lot about the woodsmanship, and they don't really use decoys. And they go into explanations on different things of why they do this and why they do that. Onyx mapping is a big part of how they are successful.
Knowing the lay of the land beforehand is a big part of woodsmanship. And I know we're up against our top of the hour break.
But it's a good show to watch.
And what's the name of that show again?
The Hunting Public.
The Hunting Public. I'll have to check that out. But, knowing the lay of the land. Don't be fumbling around in the dark trying to figure out where you are or where you put your ground blind or where you want to set up. Know exactly where you need to be and go straight to that point. If you have to have a handheld GPS to do it, if you have to put tacks on a tree to do it, whatever it takes, okay, there's a little reflective, tacks, whatever it takes for you to get to your spot and get set up without messing somebody else's hunt up or getting involved in them. I mean, that's critical, especially in when you're trying to share a piece of property like you do on public land. Guys and gals, we'd love to hear from you. 321-632-1000 is our call-in line. Give us a shout here. We're going to be right back with a whole nother hour of Captain Matt Lee and myself, Jim Ross, and Catch a Memory Outdoors after this break. Hey, gang, welcome back. It's second hour of the show, Catch a Memory Outdoors, right here on WWBC 1510 AM. Appreciate y'all tuning in every Saturday to the show. See what's going on here. For those of you that are out there on the social media platform, Facebook, we appreciate you tuning in and watching us as well. And we want to let you know this segment of the show is brought to you by Blue Points Marina out there at Port Canaveral. They're still holding plenty of boats, get you in and out of the water fast. And I tell you what, it's a great place to keep your boat. So if you're looking, keep an eye out for them. Go out and check them out. See how they work. You're going to be impressed. I'm Captain Jim Ross. For those of you that are just tuning in, Captain Matt Lee's in the studio with me this morning.
Good morning.
Been talking a little bit about some hunting, a little bit about some fishing, but mainly that it's springtime, and we are so thankful that the bite has been as good as it's been.
And now we can get Captain Mike Mann on the line and we can start talking about donuts. We already had them.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good morning,
today?
Mike. How are you doing this morning?
I am good. I am in rainy Atlanta right now and heading back tomorrow, or halfway back this afternoon, picking up my old pickup truck.
Your old pickup truck?
Yeah, I got a 1931 A model pickup.
Oh, wow.
I was going to ask if it had stones
all
on
original.
wheels.
When my dad passed, he left it to me, and I'm finally getting up here to the house to pick it up and drag it back down to Florida.
Gotcha. You gonna have somebody restore it for you, or are you gonna mess with it yourself?
I'm gonna try and do it. I mean, it's pretty much, it's all original, so I'm not gonna restore it. I'm gonna keep it pretty original.
Wow, that's a time capsule right there.
Yeah, exactly.
1931.
Exactly.
Does it have rubber for wheels or is it stones?
You put your feet out the bottom of the floorboard and pedal it like Fred Flintstone.
Wait till I put a trailer hitch on it. You see me pulling up to the boat ramp with the whole bay behind it.
That would be classic right there, man.
That would be good advertising.
Great, wouldn't it?
Yep. That would be cool.
So I hear you guys have been talking about the spring bite. It's been a pretty good week.
I came in and the first thing I said to Matt was, you see my thumb? And he's like, yeah, I see. Boy, the snook this week. Holy cow, they decided to fire. But, man, my hands are just torn up from picking those stupid things up. Their mouths are so rough. And, gill rakers and everything else, trying to get hooks out of them. And my hands took a beating this week. But it's a good kind of pain.
Oh,
because if you don't have a thumb that looks like this at the end of the week, it's not been as good a week. It's not been as good a week as it could have been.
I think you need to invest in a pair of gloves, though, buddy.
Well, I've got gloves. They're the knuckle. They're cut off at the knuckles so that I can
Well, don't cut them off at the knuckles.
Well, no, they're already cut off. But, you know what I'm saying. But anyway, just one of those things where.
Yeah, we've had black drum have been eating, redfish have been eating offshore. started getting the cobia to show up here. We were having to run a little bit south. I have not found, and we haven't seen many, but there's a lot of rays that were around, and then this cold front kind of shoved them back down, I think, towards you guys.
All my brothers out at Port Canaveral have been out there doing their best not to let a single one slip by,
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. Being better fishermen up in New Smyrna, we like the challenge.
You're gonna get a challenge. Trust me, because we're gonna do our best to put whatever we can in the box. Yeah, if we can fill the gate across the ocean, we're gonna put it up.
No, you know what? I know how many good captains there are in your area, and I'm always like, okay, the weather's good. They're pushing right through. Damn it, or darn it, a cold front.
Yeah,
they're going back down. I know they're gonna pick everyone off of them.
Kyle Weaver is a perfect example of the kind of quality that we have out of Port Canaveral. Kyle is fishing out of a 15-foot flat skiff. He's got just this little, tiller. It's a tiller-operated, flat
I like
skiff.
Cobia, but I don't like him that much.
But
15-foot flat skiff?
It's calm. It's calm. It's 1 foot and at 10 seconds or whatever. It's like a lake out there, on some of these days. And Kyle's out there just whacking fish, just putting it to him. He's like the other day he calls me, he goes, "Hey, are you looking for him yet?" And I'm like, "No, I'm still triple tailing and snooking. It's been good." And he's like, "Well, you need to come look." Well, if somebody tells you need to come look, well, you probably ought to go look,
right?
Because I get up to him and he's like, "Come right to me," and I'm like, "Okay." So I came out to where he was at, and he drives over and he says, "Well, I got 6 right now already," and I'm like, "You got 6 already? I mean, it's not even like 10, 30, 11 o'clock in the morning. You got 6 to the boat already."
Wow.
So, there's some quality fishermen out of the Port Canaveral area. All of the guys. What's that, Mike?
Well, you guys get a little different. See, you guys can sight fish them at 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. They don't start popping up for us good till like afternoon, after 12.
At least noon.
12 to 3 is the premium time.
Around that southeast shoal area, when they're around it, that water's shallower. In fact, in some places it's only 5 or 6 feet deep on the top of the shoal, and you can be a mile off the beach and it's only 6-7 feet of water. So it's hard to hide a 12-foot wide manta ray in only 7 feet of water. It's they really they got to have their cloaking devices on for us not to see them. When you get those kind of conditions.
That's our problem. Is we don't have the shoal. You got another one up at Matanzas, so they get the same thing. We just don't have it, and so I guess Saturday, maybe it was Friday, they were up in like 8 feet of water, but they were in real close to the beach, and it's spring break, so you got to be careful what you're doing. I know a few guys got yelled at for running right down, an 8 foot of water with swimmers and surfers out there, and so a few guys got some whistles blown at them.
Yeah, the coast, not Coast Guard, the beach lifeguards will definitely make sure that you're staying. I think it's a 500-foot buffer that you're supposed to stay off the beach.
Like you said, though, we like the challenge, though. We like the challenge. We don't want it to be easy fishing.
Well, I'm glad you embraced the struggle, because it's going to be a struggle if we let anything get by us today.
They got knots on their heads from all the jig heads we've been hitting them in the head.
Well, the one thing that's bad about it is a lot of the rays they've got some new jewelry.
Oh yeah,
they're wearing some earrings and some. I have almost stopped throwing heavy jigs towards a manta ray. I just hardly even do it. I throw topwater plugs, and I throw big 7-inch assassin jerkbaits on a half ounce or 3/4 ounce jig head. And throwing those big jerkbaits like that, those big soft plastic jerkbaits, it's the same thing that we all use, the little 4 and 5 inchers. They look exactly the same, but they're 7 inches long, and they float high on the water. They kind of look like a needlefish or an eel, and the fish just eat them. And there's no reason to go heavy and get the jig down and wrapped around the ray if you don't have to, in my opinion.
Right.
Because you can pull the cobia off of the ray, and in a bait or a lure that doesn't sink very fast, you can keep it up towards the top. You can keep the interest of the fish and allow him to pull off the ray and catch up to the lure and go ahead and hook him instead of trying to cast a heavy jig in front of the ray, let it sink down below it. Try to time it so that your line doesn't catch the ray's wingtip, but gets to the cobia that are down below him. Because if you throw a topwater plug on top and chug it once or twice, those fish that are down underneath come up to see what's going on. Mm-hmm. And that's all it takes. It's just some kind of commotion for them to come out from under the ray if they're not riding on his back. So, like I said, I very rarely ever throw a heavy jig at cobia.
I'm going to tell you one of my little secrets. And this is, I figured this out because I happened to have a cobia rod on the boat a couple of years ago. But I didn't have any cobia jigs because I'd just done a trip in the lagoon. I get a phone call, hey. So I basically don't even put the boat on the trailer. I run from JB's all the way up out the inlet, pop out, and I'm like, what do I have that I can throw to these things? I had a Paul Brown squishy pink, hot pink one.
Yeah.
And
suspending bait.
They were fighting over that thing. Yep. I mean, absolutely fighting over it. And I'm like, I think I got 6 cobia. And and I was talking to guys, they're like, yeah, I just couldn't get them to hit anything. I couldn't get them. I'm like, yeah, they hit what I was throwing.
Yeah.
They're like jelly donuts, too, from what I understand.
Yeah, exactly.
So Mike, am I under the impression that you like Dunkin' Donuts, or you like donuts?
It's a joke.
I love them, but unfortunately, my blood sugar doesn't love them as much.
See, because we have a thing going with Captain Jeff Kranick from the Coastal Sportsman about donuts. Because every morning in the duck blind, Jeff has an eclair or a donut of some kind.
All right, so the joke is, all right, Mike was taking off before I got there or whatever. He was talking, my clients were there before I got there, and he was talking, he's like, yeah, your captain will be here in just a minute. He had to stop by Dunkin' Donuts to get donuts this morning for breakfast.
Oh, okay.
So the next morning,
he's throwing you under the bus.
Oh, yeah, like big time. So the next morning, I got up a little bit earlier. I went to Dunkin' Donuts. I got a dozen donuts. And I met all the captains down there with a box of donuts, and I said, hey, bud, here you go. And it's just been something a little bit.
Yep.
So now he's Captain Donut.
Well, you have to embrace it, man.
You've got to.
Yep.
You know what I've kind of gotten, you talk about those morning pastries. I don't know if you have a 7-Eleven near you. They have these apple fritters.
Dude, they're delicious. I can't eat them because I just gained a pound thinking about them.
Amazing. We're getting ready to go eat a place called Mammy's Kitchen.
That sounds like the place to be this morning.
That's the place to go. It's been around for probably 40 years, and they do the best biscuits. They do Strickling biscuits. They do tenderloin biscuits. They do country ham biscuits.
I bet you could find a chicken and waffle plate in there, too.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Well, hey, speaking of fishing, though, last week, the lane snapper, the mangrove snapper bite was off the chain. I mean, it just crushing them.
Good as it gets, huh?
As good as it gets. And then I will tell you, this past week, what happened, with that weather that came through, I got out the inlet Thursday, and the bite had slowed down a little bit on the reefs, but on the nearshore reefs, on both the Flagler Reef and the Sunglow, the sand trout. And not little sand trout, not those typical 12, 15-inch sand trout. Right. We were getting some 19, 20-inch sand trout.
I'll tell you, buddy of mine, he got on the not the sand trout, but he got on the whiting the other day and was catching big whiting.
Yeah, yep. I've heard some reports of really big whiting coming in. So spring is here. It's trickling in, but it's happening.
It's here. Well, I'm going to do my best to make sure that you don't get any more cobia shots, and I know everybody that's going out of Port Canaveral is going to be right there helping me. So,
what's okay? I know where you live, and I know you got a freezer. So, I'm coming to your house.
Jim showed me the flaggy guy says Mike with a big circle and a slash through it. It says Cobia,
no,
Mike Cobia on it.
For Mike.
No Cobia for Mike. Oh,
well, buddy, we're up against our break. How do we get a hold of you if we want to do some fishing with Captain Mike Mann?
Yeah, I've got a pretty decent amount of days up open in April, and April's a great time to fish. You can give me a call at area code 386-295-5991. You go right to my website, fatfishguide.com. Follow me on Instagram, CAPT Mike Mann with 2 N's, and on Facebook, Fat Fish Guide Service. Guys, get out there, catch a memory. Matt, be safe driving back, brother.
All right,
thanks,
buddy.
man. You too.
Tenderloin biscuit.
Can't wait to see the truck.
Tenderloin biscuit.
All right, brother. Take care.
All right, later.
Hey, gang, we're going to take our first pause of the second hour. When we come back, Captain Matt Lee and myself are going to be here with a whole lot more Catch a Memory, so don't go away. This segment of the show is brought to you by Engel Coolers. You know what? I was just thinking to myself, we went to the drag races a couple of weeks ago and took our soft-sided backpack cooler, and that thing, man, it just does a great job holding everything that you want to hold. It's got a divider in the middle of it. You can put drinks on one side and, sandwiches on whatever you want on the other. Just a fantastic little day cooler, if you will. It is super easy to carry. You can throw it up on your back, walk around with it all day long. If you're going to the beach and you just need something that's just easy to carry because you got, skimboard in one hand, a surfboard in one hand, or a lawn chair in the other, whatever it happens to be, it's a great way to be able to carry something along with you and not have to worry about, being able to make 3 trips back and forth to the truck. So check them out. One of the cool things that they make is that soft-sided backpack cooler. You guys and gals are going to enjoy it. The other thing that we need to talk about is it's the Starbright Cleaning Solutions segment of the show.
Oh, yes.
So we need to talk about some things. I noticed you like that reggae wash mitt. These things, I really...
For my truck especially, because I tell you, it's...
And the other thing that I like mine for, getting underneath my hatches, all of my channels around my hatch lids.
Yeah.
It's such a great tool for doing that because this time of the year between the pollen and the wind blowing the dirt around, your hatch channels stay filthy. And you can go out and wash. Like I wash my boat every day. You come out the next day and there's dirt in it again, and you're like, how did that get there?
Yeah, I don't know.
But you let it go 3 or 4 days, and all of a sudden it looks like like garbage.
Yellow,
now.
green.
Yeah, this thing right here really does.
It works really good in hatches too, like you're saying. But reaching up in there, so you don't just
up underneath
get everything.
But the one thing I wanted to talk about was the Starbright Nose Guard mildew odor control bags. These things are really cool because especially if you have kids can smell things up in a heartbeat. Between them spilling the McDonald's in the back seat,
Mm-hmm.
If you got dogs and cats, like we do, we've got, my wife carries dogs back and forth to South Carolina. She works for the rescue. There's always something going on that's making your car smell, or whatever particular small area that you have that will get smelly like that. So these odor control bags, these mildew and odor control bags are really cool. You can use them 2 ways. One, you can take the product out of, say, it comes with a case. For those of you that can see it on TV, it comes with a case, or not TV, on Facebook. It comes with a case that's got holes in it. You can see that it allows air to flow in and out of it. And it's a product that you pull out of this aluminum packaging.
Mm-hmm.
That's what activates it. Moisture activates it. So if you want to use it in a slow release type of a scenario, you take this product out of here, set it down in there, and just slide it underneath your car seat. And it'll make your whole car stay fresh for a long period of time. Now, if you need to turbocharge that thing and make it work really fast because you got something that's really not, let's say you get, for whatever reason, you stepped on a shrimp.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got in the truck or you got in the car and it's now in the carpet.
Mm.
You know how that's going to smell tomorrow and the next day. It's not going to be a pretty sight. So in that case, you take this little sponge, and they've cut a little slit in the sponge, and you wet the sponge, kind of wring it out so it's just moist, and then you take the product and you slip it into that little slit on the one end.
Okay.
And so it activates the entire thing because the water that's in the sponge saturates the active ingredient, and it creates like a supercharged,
That's pretty cool.
flash of odor killing chemical in the in your car. So just
That's
a
pretty
great
cool.
great little product to have. It's super simple to use. It works within 6 to 8 hours. It works like I put it in my truck overnight. You come out the next morning and everything smells fresh again. And it's just a really, really cool thing to be able to throw into your car, into your, in your trunk, locker, whatever it is that you have, a small confined space that may need some odor control. The other thing that I do with these is I buy the double box They have another one that has 2 in it, and it actually comes with 2 separate boxes in the kit. And I use that in the boat, and I also use it in my utility trailer, because my utility trailer is packed up for, a long period of time. Sometimes it's 3-4 weeks at a time before I get back into it. And of course, moisture and everything has a tendency to build up. So I put some of the moisture control product in there, and I put this mildew odor control bags in there, but I don't wet the sponge. I just leave the product in the plastic container and let the moisture from the air activate it, sort of in a slow release method versus a fast release method, and it keeps it fresh, keeps it from getting mildew inside of it. Just a good overall product to have around the house.
That's awesome.
So,
My favorite product from Starbright though is hands down the Salt Off.
good product.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah, good product.
it's so nice. And I do run it in my engine and stuff like that, and it's just like,
Orson Tarver is one of our show listeners, friend of mine. He was telling me that he only gets to use his boat. Sometimes he uses it 2-3 times a week. Sometimes he doesn't use it for 2 weeks at a time.
right?
And so he's telling me that, so he'll take the salt off and he'll run it through his motor, and then he'll shut it off and not let it completely cycle
Right.
all the fresh water back through it to rinse all of the product out of it. So he puts it in a heavy concentration and then shuts the hose off and then lets the motor just sit there with it, like tilted up, sit there with it. He says when he tilts it down, he goes, the amount of stuff, after 2 weeks or whatever, the amount of stuff that the salt off takes out of those internal cooling ports, your thermostats, everything, it strips all those like the calcium buildup, the salt buildup, all of that stuff. It strips all of that stuff out of there. He says you can physically see it when you tilt the motor back down. He says you can see it running out of the remaining
I want to try that.
water that was in there. So one of the things that I've started doing after he told me about this is I typically don't fish Saturday and Sunday. So Friday afternoon, I'm cleaning the boat. I tilt the motor up. I run the salt off through it. And then I just leave it until Monday morning when I get back to the boat ramp and tilt it back down. And then I've started to notice I'm flushing mine a lot of times 2 and 3 times a week.
Right.
But just that little bit of extra letting it sit on it over the weekend, you'll notice that there is some additional, contaminants that will come out of your motor. And for those of us that have zincs in our motors, like Yamahas and Suzukis, I don't know if Mercury does or not, but Yamaha and Suzuki in particular run zincs in the heads as sacrificial anodes. Your zincs will last twice as long.
Huh.
Like on my Yamaha,
Figured, yeah.
you're supposed to change the head zincs every 800 hours.
Right.
The last time I went to get mine done, I had hit that, hit that mark. They were like, they look almost brand new. The
Good.
salt off is really, really taking
It
all
does.
of that,
It works good.
all of those contaminants out. Man, it's a great product. So
It is a great product.
Starbright Lakes, they make a lot of really, really
Startron
cool
was
stuff.
very good too. I love the Startron.
Well, you've got an entire bucket to take home with you there, full of all kinds of
Well, I
fun
appreciate
stuff. Compliments of Starbright.
Thank you, Starbright.
Yeah.
I use your products all the time.
Clean and protect. You know what, Matt? We let's go ahead and get our break out of the way, and then we'll finish up talking about. I want to talk about some of the things that are coming up in the next couple of weeks, and how Matt is going to finish out turkey season this year. We're gonna have to talk about that because
All right.
it sounds like you've got a problem bird on your hands that
Oh yeah.
that we need to talk about.
He's a good one too.
We're going to be right back after this break with more Catch Your Memory, so don't go away. And, welcome back for those of you that have been with us the whole time during the show. Want to let you know this segment of the show is brought to you by Petrucci Insurance. Matt and I were just talking before in one of the earlier breaks about Petrucci. He's needing some help with his insurance. We're all needing help with our insurance because insurance companies are just, they're raising rates left and right. And
Running
it's
through the roof.
going crazy right now. So Matt's going to give Petrucci a call this week. Talk to Virginia, Dawn, one of the people over there, see if they can get you hooked up with something that's going to work for you. But anyway, nobody, I haven't found a person in this earth that likes paying for insurance. But we got to have it, So give Patricia a call. Let them try to do a rate check for you. See if they can help better what you've got going on. In some cases they can, in some cases they can't. But at least you'll know, because they can farm it out and check with different companies that whether it's boat insurance, whether it's house insurance, whether it's car insurance, whatever it happens to be, they can find you the best deal and the best coverage for the best price.
Well, I'm glad they do it, but the hardest part about finding insurance for us is the commercial side.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people do it.
Yeah. So right now, as an example, I have Progressive insurance for my truck because it's commercial. I'm pulling a commercial vehicle, or I'm driving a vehicle that's pulling a commercial vessel behind it. The vehicle is supposed to be commercial as well. So I'm paying commercial insurance. Have been doing that for a number of years. My accountant actually was the one that tipped me off to it. He's like, hey, I'm just letting you know that if you get in an accident, your truck is on your personal liability, not on your business liability.
Better check that.
So you need to check on that. And so I did. And I was like, yeah, he's making a lot of sense here. Long story short, commercial insurance is not cheap. And Progressive is the only company that I've been able to find at this point that would write a policy at anything. I won't even call it reasonable. I would just say anything that was lower than absolutely ridiculous. Okay? And I'm still paying way more than what I want to be paying for insurance for my truck, for my 2 trucks for the year. But as stupid a price as I've got, there are stupider prices out there, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, I'm sure.
There are companies out there that are looking at $10,000-$11,000 a year for me to drive my boat back and forth to the boat ramp.
10 miles back and forth.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. So it's worth the check. It's definitely worth the check. Matt, we were talking earlier. You've got a problem child that's running around your yard, your property, I guess it is. Mm-hmm. And he's a pretty good problem child. He looks like he's a mature, nice mature turkey. Got a big rope hanging off, the big old beard hanging off the front of him.
There's 2 of them out there, but that one's the boss gobbler out of the 2. We got roughly 8 to 10 hens usually.
Yeah.
Out there, but he's been gobbling for almost probably 2.5 months.
They seemed to start early this year.
They did.
Like it was February, and they were already starting to get in to that.
I'm already starting to see
breeding
the hens spread out in more or less in the nesting stage.
Yeah.
But that's just Florida for you.
Yeah.
So they like to start early. He's a mature bird. We get turkeys out there all the time with the horses and big pastures and stuff like that. We also feed the deer. The turkeys. But we're a big feeder. We have we like this. My folks like to watch them.
Yeah.
And then now I've gotten older, and I don't hate the deer, and I don't hate the turkeys as much as I used to.
You're not mad at them anymore like
now
you used to be.
Now it's like, oh, that's pretty cool, So I really like to go out there with a box call and tune my skills. Box call, slate call. I really don't do a mouth call. But see what he likes, and then try to mimic what he's got out there.
See which hen he's following, right, and how that hen sounds.
Right, exactly.
And because the hens sound different.
Right. You've got the raspy hens, you got young hens, you got all kinds of different things.
You got bossy hens. You got some of them like I was talking with Gary Brown, and there was this one hen over at a hunt lease that we were on in Geneva for a while, and he nicknamed this hen Miss Bossy, and he followed this hen around every day for like 2 weeks. Just kind of, he'd stay back 150, 200 yards behind him and just watch what they were doing on their daily routine. And he's like, Miss Bossy was just mouthy as she could be, and just trying to keep everybody in line and tuned up.
She will too.
And but he said the gobblers did not really like her. They preferred the other birds to that particular bird. So in realizing that different birds sound slightly different, you don't want to imitate a Miss Bossy, if you will. You want to imitate the one that the gobbler wants to get with.
Well, usually the Miss Bossy would keep the other hens in line. So if you don't want to imitate her, of course, but if she's going to keep the rest of the hens in line and the gobblers like the other hens, it all goes hand in hand.
Yep.
But yeah, just really trying to, I don't even really turkey hunt that much anymore. I haven't been turkey hunting in a couple of years, actually. But I just like to get out there and then box, put the chalk on it, hit it with a, the sandpaper or whatever, south side, and watch him. But it's really cool, and sometimes they'll take video and all kinds of stuff. But I was just telling you, like, I've got a little app on the phone, and he was out there at the house the other day. So when I pulled up, so I just turned the key off and I hit it on my Bluetooth and turned the volume up, and that joker lost his mind. He came running to the truck, blowing up, gobbling, strutting, all kinds of stuff, and I had literally left 4 hens. And I just it was,
really just because you turned the radio in the truck up and then played a yelp through it or
the
something.
Yelps and the cuts, and I hit him with a gobble, and he just lost his marbles. He was pretty cool, but yeah, he's a problem in that fact because he likes to peck the truck. He likes to get up there and he likes to see the truck. He sees the reflection. Even the sliding glass doors, like there'll be a line of blood across his head high, and he'll go pop, 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 all the way down and all the way back. And I don't know how he didn't die already from hitting the windows so much, but yeah, he'll scratch the truck, he'll scratch anything he can see his reflection, and he'll fight it.
He'll fight it. Yep.
Like yesterday, I had to go down there and print a couple things and do a fax, and I walked outside, and he's literally laying next to the tire of the truck. It's like do, like, okay, I'm just gonna chill here for a minute. Then I'll get back up and fight you again, But he's crazy. But he's a good one.
I had a friend that was driving in his truck, and he had chrome hubcaps on it, and the gobbler came off he slowed down to look at him. The gobbler came off the side of the road and went over and started trying to beat the front tire up on the car because he could see his reflection in that hubcap.
It's crazy. It's like, but yet they can be so smart. I mean, you move a finger at 200 yards and they can see you.
They can see you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like I don't understand how they can be so smart and dumb.
So I've got a question for you. The birds this year seems like they started a little early throughout the entire region here, Region C of the state. Are you noticing a lot of? Are they doing a lot of, dragging their wingtips while they're strutting? Are they doing a lot of strutting, or are they just?
Well, that gobbler in particular, the one I have at the house, he's been gobbling his head off at dark and daylight, just like they should. And then the first about hour of daylight, he'll gobble if you hit him with anything like a shot call or whatever. He's not really dragging his wings as much as he'll sit there and he'll puff, on like 3/4 strut, but he won't put his wings all the way down. And then he'll kind of like go into half strut and then kind of just feed, and then he'll, if something excites him, he'll blow back up again. He'll
puff back up again.
Now, I mean, I showed you that picture earlier. I mean, definitely that was about as much strut as you could get out of him. But he wasn't.
He's not on full strut, wingtips dragging the sand, spinning circles. He's not doing.
And he may have been a month ago.
Yeah.
And well, you can't really tell, but yeah, I guess he is dragging the ground. He is a little bit, but he doesn't do it very much. Like, he's not as tight in the strut. He was probably doing that a month ago, and I just didn't pay attention. So I really don't. Like I said, they're pets in the yard. So.
Yeah, I would say they're yard ornaments. Yeah,
$1,500 pet. I could sell.
I could sell a hunt on that dude. Yeah,
I'll put you.
I tell you, there's a lot of hunters from Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina that come down to to this area to get their Osceola, because we still have, even though with all the growth, we still have a pretty good population of them here in the woods.
Yeah. They're hard. They're hard. They're hard to hunt, but they sure are pretty birds.
Now, you were talking a little bit about, actually Kyle's sending me a picture here. Oh, he's got a whole field full of them here. He's sending
turkeys.
Oh yeah, he's sending pictures.
He
must be out on them right now or something.
That's a good one.
But you were talking about.
No, that's too bright and sunny. It can't be. That can't be today.
Probably yesterday, the day before. Yeah. You were talking about food plots.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, not a lot of us have property enough to actually put a food plot in, but if you're putting in a spring food plot for turkey and deer, what mixture do you like for those guys that do have a little bit of area where they could do that?
If we're doing it for just turkeys, or are we doing it for turkeys and deer?
I would personally, I would plan a combo, but
That's what I would do. Clover, chicory. We had really good success on their biologic lab one time. And what we did is when we did it, we put mill organite on top and mixed it all in. And that actually kept the deer off until about it was over your kneecap high.
Oh, really?
And then,
so they didn't nip it all
wore,
off when it just sprouted out.
Yeah, the mill organite kept them off because it's so strong. The order is so strong, and that kept them off until it got real high. And then once it did, it was gone. The deer and turkeys both ate it. I mean, it was ridiculous. But anything that have a bud on it, wheat, sunflowers are good. Anything that will sprout, have seeds or whatever, but they'll just go ahead and eat the seeds.
Yeah.
So I mean, really, if you're wanting to do turkeys, get somewhat of a food plot, but still feed them, don't till it. Don't till it under.
Let it go ahead and flower out.
But clover's a good one because it'll keep reproducing, and they always eat that. Anything that'll keep reduced, like I said, but then hold bugs too. So don't spray it for bugs because they'll eat the grasshoppers and crickets and all that out of there.
Gotcha. Yeah, because they don't smell. They can't smell.
No.
And so what's that milorganite you're talking about?
Mill organite.
Yeah. Milorganite. That you're right. That stuff does have a really strong smell to it,
and it hangs in there for like
it'll keep the deer off of it for long enough that it can actually establish itself.
That's the best thing we found. I mean, we've tried doing like fences and electric fences, and they just jump over top of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do to keep a deer off of that unless you have a couple 100 acres of food plots, and we don't. Because hunt down here, we've got roads, so we tried that one time. It worked really good, and it's a good fertilizer for it, So, but that worked out really well for the deer. But turkeys you can get by with just about anything to hold bugs or produce a seed of some kind.
We got to figure out how to get the turkeys turned on to chinch bugs.
Well, first of all, you have chinch bugs in the wild.
Well,
I don't think you do.
All of these subdivisions that have St. Augustine grass in them, they all have chinch bug problems because you have to spray for chinch bugs. So we got to figure out how to get the turkeys on the chinch bugs, eliminate the spray, and bring turkeys to the yard.
Well, I don't know if you can,
right?
Because, I don't know when I was doing yards years ago, you have to like dig down in the grass to get it, to get the chinch bugs more or less, and I don't know if they would actually do it or not, but that would be a good idea.
Yeah, kill two birds with one stone, if you will.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Well, guys and gals, we're going to be right back. We're going to have a fishing wrap up from Captain Matt Lee and myself right after these messages, so don't go away. This is the final segment of the show, and we want to let you know that it is brought to you by Strike Zone down in Melbourne. Great day to go down to Strike Zone. If you're looking for some new gear, you need to re-spool some rods.
Well, it's great, too, because tax season just came through. You go down to Strike Zone, spend your tax money.
Spend that tax money. I was just kind of looking at the Facebook feed here, and it was really funny. Mike Kipp was saying that he was getting some really good mangoes. Jeff Schnell calling in listening in from Beaufort, North Carolina. That's got my family lives up around Beaufort. A bunch of my family lives there. Yep. Chris Kaminsky in Vero Beach. Chris Williams, good morning from Wyoming. Hopefully you're out there catching some Mackinaw this morning. He's been chasing those freshwater trout, and I don't know if they're salmon too, or if they're just trout or what, but been chasing those things out there. But where was it here? Somebody was saying, let me find it. Somebody was saying that we let some fish slip through. Jeff Crumpton. Sorry, Jeff Crumpton. We were talking about the cobias and trying to build a wall. Mm-hmm. He says, y'all let 4 slip by because he got them.
That's good. Well, speaking of that freshwater, we didn't even touch that. I've seen reports of the crappie bite and the brim bite off the charts.
Really? Because down here, it's really been off. They
There's a
sprayed
guy that
from
does
Point
the
Set South. They sprayed and sprayed and sprayed, and then sprayed some more.
There's a guy on Facebook, and he's always. I think it's Lake Kissimmee,
Yeah,
and he does like a little Facebook thing, and he'll open his cooler up, and that thing will be slap full of
them.
large. I mean brim.
Yeah,
And then the other days will be large. I mean big crappie and everything else. But it's like we've been fishing for about an hour, and I think this is number 80. I'm like, first of all, I don't even know the regulations for them.
Right.
But I'm like, that didn't sound right, but looks
well,
like they've been
I mean,
wearing them out.
it's like with Cobia, you can keep one per person, 2 per boat, but doesn't mean you can't catch 6 or 7. You know.
No, but I mean they got that cooler. They got a 124 quart cooler, and they're
They're sliding
full.
them in there. Yeah, I wonder what the limit is.
I don't know. I don't know how many people they have on the boat either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're not showing all that, but they're showing the crappie bite in the brim. And then
Well, when you get to an area where they haven't sprayed and tried to kill everything, you know, it's healthy.
well, I heard Okeechobee's doing good too, with the crappie.
Are they?
Mhm.
Yeah. Up here has been a real disappointment this year. And the other thing is I haven't hardly heard anybody talking about the shad. Now, either it's been really kept quiet on the down low, or we just haven't had a very good run this year. One of the two. And we've had high water. So
Maybe they built the wall.
they might have built a wall. Lake Monroe over there dumping sewage into the lake on a continual basis, it seems like. Every couple of days there for a while, they were dumping more raw sewage in the lake. That can't be helping.
Oh, it can't. I mean,
Because,
that sounds delicious.
I mean, yeah,
why,
exactly.
Why would we want to go eat those fish?
Like Dusty Rap and some of the guys that the offshore guys here out of Canaveral, whenever they can't get out because it's too rough, they were running over there, and then all of a sudden, big sewage dump and kind of shut all that down. But I know Dusty and those guys were having a really good early season on the specs this year. So it's just one of those things where, something comes along and changes that dynamic, and so you have to kind of deal with that. But it's late March, coming into early April, big trout getting ready to start. Throughout the entire region. Right now, Wabasso, Fort Pierce, even Sebastian has got some pretty good trout, but they're going to start moving up. And I know that you, especially with your pigfish bite, that is a staple of your fishery. Throughout the late spring and early summertime. What kind of conditions for a guy that wants to go out and try and catch a good mess of trout? You can only keep 2, but just have a good day catching them. What do you recommend to that guy? What's he need to look for when he gets out on the water?
Well, you need to look for mullet. Main deal. Look for your bait, and then Then after you find the bait, look and see what kind of structure they're holding. Of course, it could be a bar, like on the edge of a bar, drop off, grass flats, whatever.
Even
spoiler islands, deeper holes, like off the spoiler islands, rocky bottoms. Just depends on where they're at, and then just fish those wads of bait, and then you kind of start dissecting, like how once you get a first bite, like how deep was that bite, or what kind of bottom is it in, or whatever, and then you get the second bite, and then you start putting a game plan together. And every day is different, of course. You got to factor your wind and which way the bait's going to flow, and how, like I said, how deep they are, how the bottom is, how they're hooking, how you're working the bait. You work too fast, you can work it too slow. It's all kind of just, you got to just go in there and put the pieces together. But the main thing is finding the structure, finding the bait. Yeah. And once you find the mullet and the big mullet wads, that's where you'll find your fish. Whether you throw a topwater at them, or a swim bait, or a shrimp, a pigfish, or a croaker, live mullet, even a pinfish. I got nowhere. I couldn't get pigs one day, but I could get pinfish, and I worked them just the same as I would a pigfish, and they were eating the tar out of it. So they do work. So a variety of baits work, but mainly target your structure in your bait, and that's where you find fish.
You want to find the finger mullet, or you want to find the full size mullet?
Mainly it's finger mullet. Any mullet will work.
Right.
But in that time of year, the finger mullet is what we have in the lagoon. and just find that. Even when they get a little bit bigger, still fish those pods of bait, because that's where you're gonna find them. There's a bait's there for a reason. That's why the fish will be there. So, but that's the main thing: find the bait, find the fish.
Well, and then once you start to get some grass growth into the scenario, that actually helps because now more fish can hold in a specific area. So where you may be on a rocky point, let's say, and there's only 3 or 5 or maybe 8 fish there, you get a grassy area.
Now you just triple.
Now you could have 16 or 20 fish in that area. And so the one thing that I've found over the years is that when you find a spot, stop, power pole down, stop, and work that area thoroughly. Because if there's one, there's most likely more than one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then take it into intervals. When you do that, your power poling down, has the wind at your back, fish that area out, then move up 10 feet, 15 feet, and then do it again.
Don't blow through like a bull in a china shop.
No, you got to take your time. A lot of times it's not about speed. It's about working an area thoroughly, because you could miss that. Trout fishing is all about feet. You can be off 10 feet and not get them. Yeah. And then you.
And the other thing with trout in particular, over other fish, especially if you find them in a little bit deeper, say 2 to 3 feet of water, it seems to me that one trout bite will create the next trout bite.
A lot of times.
Will create the next trout bite, because that fish, when you hook him, first thing he does is come to the top, shake his head. He's making commotion. He's splashing around. And most of the time, he's spitting up something. He's trying to dislodge the hook.
Yeah.
But he's spitting up something he's already eaten.
Big fish, croaker.
And when he does that, now you instantly create a chum slick.
Oh, yeah.
And so if you can get 2, 3, 4 bites in an area, sometimes if there's enough grass around and enough wind and current to utilize that little bit of chum as a slick, you can sit in one spot, never move, and pull everything on the downwind side of you up the flat to you.
And some days you can.
Yeah.
You're absolutely correct. But anything, even like I said, popping corks will work too, just on shrimp. And but yeah, find the bait, find the fish. And then one thing you could try is, that we've tried before, is doing some menhaden oil. And doing that way. And the fish will come up and they'll stay in that slick, in that area, until it finally dissolves out. And then, go on. But some days it works a bit.
Well, it's one of those things where if it can hold them there, where you can get an extra cast or 2 or 3 into that zone, that's more time that you can potentially present that bait to that fish, and he can then find it, eat it, and then you can hook him, which then hopefully will produce another bite after that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it all depends on how you do it and how you do it, like how you work your baits and stuff like that. Because I've been fishing next to people and not get a bite, and then they'll be working it just a little bit different. So keep it interesting, keep it going until you find that one.
Bottom line is this: get a charter. Getting a charter with a guy like yourself who's so dialed in on how to do it the proper way, that's a huge learning curve in itself.
You want to learn how to do it, that's the best way to do it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, we are almost out of time.
How does
I know 2 hours has flown by.
Jesus.
How does somebody get a hold of Captain Matt Lee?
Give me a call, 386-214-3530, or you can find me on the web, Instagram, Facebook, at Code Red Fishing Charters. You can follow it, all that stuff, and keep a track of what we're doing. Right now we're doing a lot of black drum redfish, but trout bite will come.
It will come.
If you want to learn how to do it, come on, and we'll teach you out.
Come with one of the best in Mosquito Lagoon,
I
Captain
appreciate
Matt
that.
Lee.
Thanks, man.
Well, guys and gals, until next week,